Hi, I'm back with another review, this time for Bone by Yrsa Daley-Ward. She's a UK-based queer black poet, and this is, I think, her debut book that came out in 2017. I think she came off of Instagram with her Instagram poetry, which, like, I didn't know she did poetry on Instagram, but after I read her bio on Wikipedia about her being an Instagram poet, it kind of solidified my opinion on this book. I thought I was being a little harsh, but I wasn't, because that's just my general opinion on Instagram poets in general. Anyways, actually getting into it, instead of talking in vague statements, I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars, because I didn't like majority of the poems. I thought, last night, I finished it at a 140 or something like that, and I thought maybe I was being a little bit too harsh, so I went in, and as you can see, I gave each poem a rating out of 5, and majority of them are 1 star. Like, I consider 3 stars or more to be good, and there's maybe 27 of those. Like, I wrote this on Goodreads as well. 27 out of 72 poems I thought were 3 stars or better. The rest were 2 and 1 stars. 2 stars, not that bad, because I was like, okay, there's something here. Most of them were 1 stars though, which is just supremely underwhelming. But I've never had a high opinion of Instagram poets in general. Like, the only one that I really respect is Naida Waheed, who is actually in the acknowledgement section of this book, so I guess there's that, but whatever. Yeah, so this is a collection of poems around the theme bone, I'm guessing. I'm so bad at analyzing poetry. So this is in combination my dislike for poetry, my dislike for Instagram poetry, and my lack of patience with analytical reading. Like, if I don't get the point within the first, if within 1 or 2 passes of reading, you're wasting my goddamn time. Like, I want to get through the book as fast as possible, and if I merit going back and reading through it for over analysis, then yes, but you have to build me up to that, and this really didn't do that. A lot of the poems were about love and breakup and things like that, and I, as someone who's asexual and has absolutely no interest in romance, other than reading it, of course, these were major eye roll, especially all the ones that were talking about I miss this person so much even though they were destructive to my life. Love is destructive, blah blah blah. I self-sabotage, love is powerful, love is sad, I keep running away from the right kinds of love. All of those kinds of things really bored the shit out of me. Every single poem that was in that vein, I eye rolled so hard I thought my eyeballs will fall out of her sockets. I just love poems and breakup poems don't cut it for me. It needs to be fucking Annabelle Lee, otherwise I don't give 2 flying fucks about love poetry. The ones that did really get to me were the 6 or 7 page long ones, which I know Fadwa read this book as well, and I read her review on Goodreads, and she says she didn't like the long ones, which is funny because I really liked the long ones. There was a story to them, which is, I understand how parasitic that sounds, but if there's no intrigue, if there's no investment in what's happening to someone within that poem, I really tend to not care too much. So the ones about her family, about her father passing, about these 2, there's one about these men who dress up in drag, and either they're gay or they're men who dress up in drag. That one really struck me because it's about the how this idea of sin in the church really takes a bad term in terms of mob mentality. That one was powerful. I liked that one a lot. If I could give that one a 10 stars out of 5, I would, because that was so good. I think that's the longest one in here, and it's really, really powerful. So I like that one. There's also a couple which have suicide trigger warnings. Those, I think, again, when I say, like, it sounds a little parasitic when I say that I liked those better, but again, there's heart to those, you know. So the one that really struck me that was thematically in the line of suicide was about her near attempt and her running into this stranger, or not running into the stranger, but spotting a stranger right on the cusp of her decision, and them pulling her out of that choice without even knowing that she was going to be making that choice. So that one was like, that really got me, because like, it's one small gesture that could turn around a massive decision, like, and I'm not that intimately knowledgeable about suicide, but like, based on people in close proximity who I know about, like, that it's usually one small gesture that brings them out of that decision. So just like, the message of that was powerful enough that I really, really liked it. Again, seeing those kinds of family relationships in her poetry, like, again, like I mentioned, like, it had to have a major, like, impactful thematic narrative. And the ones about family, where she's had a lot of problems with her father, a lot of problems with her mother, aunts, and the church, and things like that. So, like, there's, again, that, like, real personal investment with players who are not abstract in that sense. Like, you know, they had a real impact on who she was, how she grew up, that in turn impacted me in how I read them and how I understood it. Like, they gave me a fuller sense of who she was, as opposed to just the love poems, which really don't give me a fuller sense of who she was, because almost every single love poem about breakup or about love, about, like, toxic relationships, almost always sound the same, unless like, there's, like, there are scars that follow it, which is so disgusting to say. Like, I hate the fact that I read poetry and I read books like that, but there needs to be a long-lasting impact past that. That is not just, like, okay, rephrasing that. If the impact is personal to the writer of the poem, I don't give two shits. If the impact affects players, not only who's the author, but also people in their lives, it makes it a little bit more relatable to me. And that's why I like those poems more. So overall, I gave this 2 stars. Like, it really is not all that special. Instagram poets are, frankly speaking, all the same, in my opinion. Like, they just kind of all read the same. Even, like, Yrsa Wahid is great, but also not that different. You know, like, the short poetry, the weird punctuation, the weird capitalization makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, if you're going to play with the grammatical structures, you need to have a consistent way of using it, because then it becomes understandable and decipherable to people. There needs to be a pattern. Like, Sarah J. Maas fucking overuses those M dashes like nobody's business, but you get it, because she's talking about, like, an interruption in thought and a pause in action. Like, it's topically, and it's applied the same way, even if it is overused to no, like, anyways. So, like, plus the line breaks were really weird. Like, again, I read a couple Goodreads reviews, and they're right. Like, the line breaks and the particular words that some of these end on, like, everything that ever hurt her or still can, like, it can is the last word in that sentence. Those don't hit as hard as, like, stronger words. And if you did want to have, like, a pause after an and or a pause after an if, it needs to be infrequent enough to where it sits with you. These didn't sit with me. And that's, like, my concluding statement on this. This book doesn't sit with me, except for that one about the 2 queer men who dressed in drag. That's the only one that probably will stick with me. And the one where she, her near suicide attempt. Like, those 2 are probably the only ones that are gonna stick with me past this. But I'll keep the book. I'll probably give it to someone else. Like, it's fine. It's not too bad. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you with my next one. This was a 9-minute, 53-second video. Peace.